Good afternoon, everybody. This is Pastor Gerald coming to you again from Lakeside Community Church. Today's message is called The Potter and the Clay. Our story takes place in the Old Testament in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 18. Jeremiah was the prophet whom God had chosen to speak to his nation, Israel. But that day, God sent him to a potter's house. Jeremiah wasn't to give a message. He was just to simply watch. So Jeremiah goes down to this potter's house. I want you, if you can, use your imagination with me just for a few moments. The potter's house was a little hut that sat in the middle of a field. Surrounding that little house was the broken shards of pottery, the broken vessels that at one time had been in the hand of the potter. But because of circumstance, they became unpliable and unworkable, and the potter would discard them and throw them away. Jeremiah watched this man. He's sitting at an old-fashioned potter's wheel, the one that the pedals, you pedal to make the wheel turn. The potter would take a piece of lifeless, ugly piece of clay. It had no shape, it had no beauty, it had no life. And Jeremiah watched him, and as he watched this man, he immediately realized that this man's focus and all of his attention was on that piece of lifeless clay on the wheel. Jeremiah had no way of knowing what the vessel was going to be in its finished product. As the man would begin to mold the clay, it became marred in his hands. And he just redid it. He made it again as a vessel that he would see fit. Now God showed him through that man a message for Israel. But today I want to do something different. I want to look at this man and I want to see his focus, his attention. And I want you to look at the clay. It had no life of its own. It had no beauty. It was just a piece of mud, a piece of clay. And when it would become marred in his hands, he would throw it and discard it to the outside. Now let's go forward. This story happens on the night of the Lord's arrest. Judas Iscariot betrayed our Lord for 30 pieces of silver. And when he realized that he had made a mistake, that he had betrayed innocent blood, he tries to return the money. The priest would have no part. They took the money, rather, and they bought a potter's field, a field in which they buried strangers. Let's look at this potter. You see, because throughout the New Testament, God uses the same analogy about the potter and the clay. Let's look at this potter. He's intent on what he's doing. He very lovingly takes a piece of clay that has no shape, has no beauty, and it's lifeless. And he begins to work with his hands. The difference with this potter, look closely if you can in your imagination at his hands and his feet. They have nail scars. Here's the potter who so lovingly takes a piece of clay and begins to mold it into a beautiful vessel. All of the broken shards and the broken pieces that lay outside, that to the eyes of the world, they were useless. They had no purpose. They had no usefulness. And yet this potter picks them back up and he puts them on the wheel and he begins to remold them. Only in the mind of the potter does he know what the vessel's going to be. As that wheel that we call life revolves and it moves, there are times that it seems like God is pressuring and pushing and gouging. We don't understand why. But look at what this potter does. He picks up the broken pieces of your life and he puts them back together and he begins to mold you and I into a beautiful piece of pottery, into a beautiful vessel, a vessel that has meaning, a vessel that has purpose, a vessel that is useful, a vessel that is on display to the grace of God to the world, of what He can do to broken lives. Oh, beloved, if you're broken today because of the pain, because of the suffering, or maybe you're like some who go through life carrying a load of guilt because of the past, and you just can't seem to forget and forgive, this potter makes life brand new. This potter gives you new hope, a new chance, a new life. He takes that broken pottery, that broken life, and he puts it together again. And he makes something beautiful and something new. It's only when we get home that we can look on our past life and then we can see why God did certain things. Why that He pressured and pushed and gouged and why He removed. And then we'll know. Because then we'll find out what the potter had in mind for our life all along. Beloved, He's making your life and my life into something beautiful. And I thank Him for that. Bring the broken pieces to Him. Let Him put them back together. I pray that God will give you the wisdom and bless you this day. And that's my prayer.